All right, we're going to call the meeting to order, starting with roll call. Larry?
Remote, yes.
You here, Larry? Okay. Eric?
Here.
And
Yes, I'm here.
Here.
Jeannie?
Here.
Steve?
Here.
Stacy?
Here.
All right, the gang's all here. Notice the meeting?
The meeting was properly noticed.
Thank you. I need a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, if you would all join, if you would all join me and stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. We trust you're standing there, Larry.
Yes.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The very first part of this meeting, we get to honor 3 Eagle Scouts. I don't know we had 3 at one time before. So would you guys like to come to the microphone and introduce yourselves?
Hi, I am Joseph Kane from Troop 13.
Hi, I'm Alex White from Troop 87.
I'm Justin Wiggins from Troop 87.
Fantastic. How do we have 2 troops, by the way? How's that work?
Troops can be at different locations, so I'm from Pewaukee, and you guys are also from Pewaukee. So there can be multiple troops
Okay.
formed.
Well, tell us a little bit about each one of your experience, because that's a heck of an achievement to become an Eagle Scout.
My experience was, it was just a fun time, a lot of work, a lot of long hours, and what I did for my project was a rest stop at New Vision Church, which is right off of 16, where we met as a troop. And I noticed that a lot of people were stopping in, sitting in their parking lot doing work on their computer and stuff. So I thought it'd be a little nice opportunity to take advantage of that and make a little rest stop so they can pull over, sit down, maybe have their lunch. And they also run a school out of the church, so the students could sit out there, do their homework, and walk the trail I made as well.
Fantastic.
So for my eco project, I created a flag collection box for an organization called the Elks Lodge. They hosted my troop during the pandemic, or at least a little bit after the pandemic, before our charter organization already opened back up to us. So I wanted to do something cool for them.
And my Eagle project was actually planned with Mr. Stangler about planting some trees and making some picnic tables. And with times came that to plant the trees were already planted, and so I just took on the task of making picnic tables for outside here.
Awesome. Awesome. And what do the different kerchiefs represent?
Well, so for mine's just our troops. For Justin's, that's actually the eagle, the actual eagle one. And then Joe's is for his troop.
All right. Others have questions for these fine gentlemen?
Yeah, I'll start. I want to welcome you guys to the club. I'm an Eagle Scout as well. So I want to commend you because less than 2% of people that start Scouts end up attaining Eagle Scout. So I think it shows a lot of commitment, dedication, and hard work. And, I think what you'll find is that it opens doors to you that right now you might not realize. I've been asked about it on job interviews. I've gotten scholarships because of it. So I really want to commend you guys for sticking with it because I know it can be tough when there's a lot of other things to do to stick with it and finish the Eagle Scout. So I commend you guys.
Steve?
I'd like to hear a little bit about how you kept that going, because just what you were saying, Eric, I know that my daughter got a black belt, and her black belt said, Grandmaster said, the difference between a white belt and a black belt is someone who doesn't give up. So how did you not give up? I mean, there's so much time that passes between when you join Boy Scouts until you get your Eagle Scout. What kept you motivated and kept you going all that time?
Was it your parents?
something that get me going. It was just something really fun and exciting to do, and something that really got out in the world and do something else, something different. Our troop went out to South Dakota and did other high adventure trips. We went on a high adventure shooting trip, and it was just how much experience you gained and how much you learned throughout becoming an Eagle Scout is what kept me in it. And also, I was a two-time sport athlete, and it was kind of hard, going to the sports. And I would go back to being at a troop meeting, and doing all that was kind of fun to keep me on my toes.
All right.
I'm gonna be honest. It was mostly my parents that kept me going. My dad especially. He went with me to every meeting, and he is currently the scoutmaster of my troop now. I also just really enjoy going out on outings. I love doing things like high adventure, which is just kind of like it's something that a lot of the older scouts do a lot. And yeah, I just really enjoyed it.
That's great.
For me, it was like my true one club that I really actually spent outside of going to school, and so with that, I had that one goal to just make sure I actually achieved something through one of my clubs, and so I pushed through and made sure I made it.
Awesome.
Hey, I have one other question. Do they still do Wilmont?
Yep, Philmont.
Yeah, or Philmont? Yeah.
Yes.
Have you guys gone to that, or?
I have not gone to that. That seems fun, though.
Okay. All right.
If you guys don't know, Philmont is a big hiking trip that you take, and it's about I think 4 or 3 days hiking trip that you take around up down mountain. It was heard from really good experience that it was really fun.
Anybody else?
My only question is, what year are you, fellas? Are you all seniors, or you're all seniors? Okay.
Probably takes that long.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
So I'll just
See?
use a follow-up then. What are your plans next year? What are you going to be doing after school's out?
I'm currently going to WCTC, training to be a firefighter and an EMT, and my goal is to be a firefighter EMT next year.
Fantastic.
I currently don't know exactly what school or program I want to go into, but I'd like to go into linguistics after this.
Currently, I'm enrolled in WCTC for my associate's degree, and my plan is just to finish the associate's degree in the automotive gen ed.
Awesome. Thank you.
Brian?
Oh, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, from from a student's perspective, seeing you so committed to this project and the things that you did, I think is really admirable for students to see the commitment you have to that. So thank you for being a role model in our schools.
All right, well, we have some certificates for you all. You guys got out of order. I had to memorize it one time. Joseph?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
You're Alex? Justin.
Justin.
Okay. So, Justin, and assuming I did this right. Gentlemen, congratulations. Thank you for coming. Warms the heart to see that.
Sure does.
While we're at this stage in the agenda, I'll open it up for any other board members that want to make any salutes or recognitions, or our student representatives.
I will.
Okay.
So obviously the girls just completed their round at state, and 2 years ago when we went through this, I was amazed at the amount of work that goes into a very short amount of time. You find out you're going to state on Saturday, and the team leaves on Thursday. And once again, the workers at PHS just did an amazing job. Obviously, a lot of it is on Jeff Behrens and Nikki, help me. Sandvik, thank you. Nikki Sandvik. This year, John got pulled into it to try and find some school buses in the state that could have drivers on them, that would drive the student van buses. It's just, it's so much work, and they're doing it 2 weeks in a row, back to back now, which is a wonderful problem to have, but I just told John, I'm really happy that they have spring break next week because they've earned it. Yeah, so it's been really cool to see. And those administrators, including Brian and Paul and Brendan, were driving back and forth. They couldn't stay. They, were making hundreds of miles in driving to make it to the boys' games and the girls' games. So a lot of commitment from all of them.
Thank you for that. Yeah, wonderful season, that's for sure. Jeannie?
I'd like to give a salute to Jim Reuter, our coach. I watched it on TV, and I was really impressed at how often the announcers talked about the team sportsmanship and empathy and cohesiveness that our team has, and they laid it all at his feet. And it's just like the Pewaukee way of doing things, and he just epitomized that for us down there.
Yeah. Agreed, very good. Steve?
I'll do two. You may know, if you were watching the game on Friday, that we won the contest for the school that bought the most tickets and brought the most fans to the girls' tournament. So there was some recognition. We get a $2,000 check from the WIA for winning that contest, and the fan support, the Pewaukee community support, was just phenomenal at the stadium. You can imagine with Green Bay Notre Dame being 2 miles away, we had just as many fans there as they did, and it was just remarkable to show the outpouring of support. And then if you haven't watched this video called 2 Years in the Making, you're really missing out. Miranda made this phenomenal video that talks about the story of the 2020 team that, you know, a day before the game had the tournament canceled from under their feet, and had already left, in fact, and we're up in Green Bay when this occurred. And it was a great story, and you should watch it. It came out on your, if you're a board member, I know it came in your email yesterday or today. So take a look. It's so worth watching that video, and it's just great thanks to Miranda for pulling that together. It's a really heartwarming story.
Anyone else? Administrator, you have?
We don't have any to add.
Don't have any today. All right. Well, thank you for that. We'll go down now to Spotlight on Learning. I think maybe I'll just turn it over to Brian to introduce everybody else.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight we are focusing on social emotional learning for our youngest students. We know that unless a student feels safe, feels secure at school, they're not going to be able to do their best academically. So we have with us our school psychologist, Dan Deuce, and our school counselor, Laura Howard, two people that are very much unsung heroes at our school that do a lot of work with pretty much every single student across PLE. And make sure that they're at their best so they can do their best each and every day in the classroom. So I'll turn it over to the two of them.
Welcome.
Hello. I'm Laura Howard, the school counselor, and this is Dan Deuce, our school psychologist. First of all, thank you for what you do in supporting us and supporting everything that we're doing. Thank you to Brian for giving us this opportunity to let you know kind of a little bit about what we're doing here. So anyway, here we go. So social emotional learning. We are at the elementary school level. Social emotional learning enhances students' abilities to understand and manage their emotions, set and achieve personal and academic goals, show respect and empathy for others, establish and maintain positive relationships, and make responsible decisions. These personal and interpersonal competencies provide a foundation for success in work and relationships as adults. You'll see that we have, we're alluding to CASEL, which is, if you're not familiar with CASEL, CASEL is collaborative for academic, social, and emotional learning. So we base a lot of our standards off of CASEL and things like that. So as you can see, according to CASEL, we have increased positive perception. So that's better understanding of ourselves and others, exploring their own interests, their greater motivation to learn. It applies to their behavior, learning how to develop, like I said before, empathy for others, responsible decisions. We're trying to reduce disruptive behaviors, and then self-regulating their emotions as well. The academic performance, the research has shown that it increases academics by 11% through like tests and grades. It achieves personal whole group goals, deeper engagement with their content, their curriculum. The stress management piece is where we're really working on managing emotion, self-regulation, developing coping skills and strategies. And then the long-term research is looking at 18 years out, a great correlation, positive correlation between their strong social emotional needs and their assets they're learning, and then their well-being as an adult. Yes, sorry. Yes, I do.
And Jeannie, you mentioned the Pewaukee way. I think it kind of starts with our youngest learners and building that empathy, that sense of connectivity, and seeing that through not just PLE, but how can that kind of transfer all the way through all of our schools. So this is some of the information you're going to see here, we're going to talk about here briefly tonight, is information that is similar to what I know the Asa Clark Middle School team presented, is because we believe in how do we build bridges across this district, all on one campus. How can we try to align our practices to make sure that we're getting our students graduate ready and successful after school. So we also have up here the RTI triangle. It's something you might be familiar with, see it quite a bit. It's just a model that we embed a lot of our academic work in, but it's also how we approach some of our social emotional learning too. So it starts with how do we provide supports and services to all of our students. That's at base level, at tier 1 level. And then for our tier 2 and tier 3 students, how do we get to those students who need a little extra support? So that's a model we do use for our academics. Again, we talk about that a lot when it comes to academics, but when it comes to our social emotional skills, we really try to apply that same approach to meeting all students' needs.
Okay, so what this looks like at PLE, and I'll be going into this a little bit further later on, but just that, again, that tier 1 is where everyone is receiving it. We have 5K first and second grade. So the SEL lessons, social thinking lessons, zones of regulation. We have a theme team committee that does a lot of work for our classrooms. And then we also have our collaborative problem solving with various building support teams, our RTI committee, doing a lot of work like that. Tier 2 is going to be more selected, so it's more small groups, and that's really for tier 2 and 3 that meet about once a week, and then also individual check-ins, which can be about bi-weekly too. Tier 3 is more of our individual check-ins. We've introduced something new this year, which is a check-in, check-out system, which is called PD's Pals, and we'll kind of get into that too a little bit later.
Go back to that last slide real quick. Throughout the presentation, we do have a few visuals of things around our building. So this is what you'll see right when you walk in the doors at PLE. It's kind of our kindness heart and our identification heart of different skills that we all have. And the teachers participate in this, and the kids participate in this. And we try to fill up our school with a lot of things that connect us all together, because I think we all believe that if we're all connected, again, adults and kids, the best results happen. So this is just really cool. If you ever get a chance to walk in those front doors, you'll see this is kind of just the one side of it, but it goes across the windows of our library. It's really, really cool. All right, so we try to pull in as much information as we can from different data sources around the school. I think the focus is what are we already collecting that can help inform us about what we're doing for kids already. So there's some pieces of data like report cards that we can get information from, and attendance and we can get information from already. Teachers and parents, they're providing us a lot of information that we can use to help design programming for kids at all levels. But then there's other pieces of information that we collect intentionally. We have a care survey which collects information about kids and their reporting in terms of are they getting enough to eat, are they getting enough sleep at night, those types of things, how are they feeling. We have something called our Connect survey, which is really cool. It's kids identifying kids that they're connected with as well as adults that they're connected with, so building that awareness for themselves, but also telling us who do we need to make sure that we're building connections for. And so you can see there's just a lot of information that we're already trying to pull in. I think one of the challenges, and I'll mention it more in a second, is how do we use all this information to better inform our practices and refine this data down to exactly what we need that meets our kids' needs.
Okay, so for Tier 1, again, this is where all 5K first and second graders are receiving this curriculum. We have Second Step, which is something that I teach. I go in for teaching guidance. It's an SEL curriculum. It's one of CASEL's selected designations, which means that it's evidence and research-based, and it promotes all 5 competencies, and you can see kind of the things that we go over in there. Social thinking is a developmental model which takes complicated kind of social learning processes and teaches them in a much more explicit way. So how we interpret a situation, how to problem solve it, and then what type of response to give. The ACP or career lessons that we're doing, this is where students really begin their career journey at PLE. We focus a lot on really exploring their own interests, what their preferences are, and we learn about different careers. Zones of regulation is something that we're trying out this year. It's a simplified approach to teaching us all how to regulate, and that regulate our feelings. It's taught by like 4 different colors that we use. It's really simple. And then that determines kind of what tools a kid might use or coping skills that they would use to kind of feel better. And so that's been something that we've been working on this year. And then on the bottom is our theme team school-wide work. Like I mentioned before, we have a quarterly themes, and our whole school theme is Be Here, Be You, Belong, which really promotes having a positive school climate, gives kids a sense of belonging, and again, through these activities, through books that we're reading, it's happening in the classroom, so the teachers are teaching this and doing the activities, so it's really a great school-wide approach to reaching everyone. The Tier 2, or the selected area, is again for 5K through second grade. This is where we are taking any lagging skills from Tier 1 programming and determining their appropriate interventions. So as you can see as well, we have the teachers fill out a form that we created that shows the CASEL standards and kind of what lagging skills students aren't meeting, and then we're able to kind of pull some groups together or find appropriate interventions for them. So we have a lot of skill-based small groups happening, and the other pieces that we're using is through obviously parent feedback, teacher input, report cards we're looking at, in different behavior charts. We're like looking at all these different things to kind of figure out that appropriate intervention. And then Tier 3 is our more individualized intervention. This is where kind of the things that are happening in Tier 2 also kind of bleed into Tier 3 as well. Something that I want to point out that we're using is, like I said before, is our check-in check-out system, which is PD Pals. These are for students who are more targeted, who maybe need more of a positive adult interaction besides their classroom teacher. So we're able to check in with them in the morning, set some goals for the day, and then we check in with them at the end of the day as well to see how their day went. It gives them really some more self-accomplishment as well, feeling like, I had a good day, and a little bit more where they're feeling like they have a little more ownership over their learning as well and their behaviors. So that's been really great this year as well. Also in this tier, this is where we are meeting individually with students, checking in on students more on a weekly basis.
So a lot of this work is happening. It's not just Laura and I and Amanda and Brian. We have to really work with pretty much the entire staff and the different teams that we have that are doing different things across the building. So this is just kind of a list of some of the teams that are already within the buildings, and we try to pull pieces from everybody to make sure that we're meeting all of our students' needs. So some of the nice things that we've really been able to do more so the last few years is really connect at an office level, not just Laura and I, but with Brian and Amanda, and making sure that, hey, we're meeting regularly, we're talking about the kids that need that extra support and making sure that their needs are getting met, and that we're working closely with teachers and families to make sure that kids' needs and learning like I said, is being met. So again, weave through it a lot of the things that we're already doing, and then we're also accessing as much district support as we can, whether that's through David Woodford or Michelle Davison, our social worker, just making sure that we're making use of all the valuable resources that we have in the district. So it's really a building wide but yet district wide type of thing that we're trying to do. Yeah, and I just wanted to take just a couple of moments just to talk about a few, I think, really cool data points. All of our kids, 5K through second grade, they get lessons from Laura throughout the year, which is awesome. I'm able to get in and do at least 5 to 10 lessons across the grade levels as well, which is probably more fun for me than it is for anything else. I tell the kids it's for my own validation. That's why I do it in my own jokes. But it's nice that they get not only the valuable work from the teachers, they get that tier 2, tier 3 type of approach from us too. But again, if we can really beef up that tier 1 system with extra lessons, I think that really just benefits kids. So I just think that's worth celebrating, that 100% of our kids in those grade levels get a kind of a double dose and a triple dose, which is, I think, kind of unique, honestly. I included what we're trying to do. I included our teacher-nominated students for intervention. So last year, we really tried to figure out, hey, who are these kids that need support? And it's not just who are the squeaky wheels, who are the behavioral concerns, but who are the kids that might have difficulties with some more internalizing type of thing. So we're really trying to work with teachers to look for things that might indicate an extra need for support. Last year we had, at about this time of the year, we had about 24 students nominated. This year it's 63. And I guess I want to share that because the number is obviously higher, and hopefully not an indictment of what we're doing. But it's that the need is growing. It's that there's more and more kids that are having, different things that they're coming to school with, things that they need support with, and it's time that Laura and I, Brian and Amanda, have to work with teachers and families to make sure that more and more kids are getting their needs met. So it's really hard work, and it's growing. But like I said, we're really trying to build a system that meets their needs. Included that. PD's Pals, again, our check-in, check-out program, a lot of success. The kids love it. We love it. I get a lot of really good feedback from parents. And on a whole, our kids really seem to respond to it. I think they just love that extra attention. And again, it's all about connection. If we can do more of that with our kids, great. And we have about half of our kids that have been on PD's Pals kind of graduated because they don't need that level of support anymore, which is great for them. So just a lot of success with that this year, kind of starting on a smaller scale and seeing if more kids need that. And then the last thing I did there was share a little bit of data from some of the social thinking lessons that I do in some of the classrooms. Just polling the teachers about the usefulness and the valuableness of the social thinking lessons, and you can see 4.71 out of 5 teachers believe that their students learn the vital skills through the lessons, and then a similar number believe that this is an important part of just building a wide community. So getting some really nice feedback from the teachers, which is great. I think probably one of my challenges, and probably Laura's too, is that when you're working with 5-year-olds and you're trying to really teach some really deep, important lessons and skills, wondering if they're getting something from it. I think it's nice to hear from the teachers who say, yeah, we see it, we feel it, and we can see that the students receive that. So I think that's valuable. And the last little piece of data that I wanted to include here is kind of work that Brian and Amanda have done, honestly, give them most of the credit for this. But again, it's that Connect survey data that we get. It's, again, kids, how are they feeling connected to other students? How are they feeling connected to other adults? Because we believe that kids who connect with other people are going to be more likely to access the things that they need to be successful. So we check in with our students a couple of times a year, and I included some term 1, term 2 data from our 5Kers, first and second graders. Kids feeling connected in term 1 to other kids, high in the first term, high in the second term. That's great. I really like that second piece. So kids that were connected in the first term in 5K, 75% said they felt connected to an adult outside of the classroom, not their current teacher. Jumped to 95% by term 2. Again, that's how are we getting more adults in front of these kids to give them an opportunity to see, hey, there's a lot of resources here. There are a lot of people who care about you, and the kids then can name that. So again, worth celebrating there. And then from first and second grade, not going to get too deep into it, but for the most part, kids in first and second graders are on a whole first term, going from first term to second term, identifying kids in the classroom that they connect with, kids outside of the classroom they connect with, and then adults that they connect with. The only little probably I'd say statistically insignificant score that didn't go up would be second graders connecting with kids outside of the classroom. But I think the one that I love the most is in first grade, connected with adults, went from on a 1 to 5 scale, 3.3 to 4.26. So it tells us we're getting more adults in front of these kids, and they're identifying adults that they connect with, which we think is so important. And so just a few things. Obviously, it's a work in progress, and I think probably more this year than ever before, do I feel like I'm reflecting on my practice and saying, is what I'm doing working? Is what I'm doing meeting kids' needs, families' needs, teachers' needs, and that type of thing? So honestly, continuing to refine that practices is always going to be a priority here, making sure that we're getting information from teachers, getting information from administrators and families about, hey, what do we need? What do we need to meet the needs of our students? So. We haven't done a ton of work within the 4K program because, as you know, they've got a different model going on the last couple of years, so we want to give that room to breathe and grow. But how do we continue to bring this even further back for our even youngest learners? So opportunities to get into there. Again, collecting more data to make sure that what we're doing is working and is effective. So we want to keep doing that. Ongoing collaboration with our community and families and making sure that their needs are being met. How do we continue to do that? And then again, kind of on the side here, given with the pandemic and the environment around that, how has that impacted our students? So jury's out on that, but it's safe to say that there's a level of impact, and we can tell that with teacher nomination report, but how do we meet the needs of our kids in such a different, changing, dynamic world? Yeah, and if you go into the front doors of PLE, you're going to see a lot of cool stuff. But that just got put up very recently. Obviously, that's our Be Here, Be You, Belong kind of theme at PLE. But very cool. Katie Mady, is that who that? Yeah, Katie Mady, our terrific art teacher, created that. It's awesome to see. So that's that. Yeah, and then a lot of the resources you can get through us, of course, but a lot of good information through the DPI website and that type of thing. Yeah.
Board have questions?
In your, I think it was tier 2, the ACP lessons. So when you're talking about career awareness, what does that look like with with young learners?
Tier 1, it's tier 1 where we do, so actually coming up here, I always end the year on careers. Do you remember doing that? Yep. But we for kindergarten, it's more of that awareness of just different opportunities, different jobs, and it's more, like I said, that's where we do, I guess we learn a little bit more about different kind of jobs that are out there. They're all kind of different, and it kind of builds on that. Okay. By second grade, we do this whole preference activity. What do you like over this? Would you rather, in fact, that's the activity. Would you rather be writing or drawing? And just kind of, and we piece together some, they kind of get a list of all the things that they really like, and then we kind of explore some of those jobs that could be part of that. So it's just kind of, just starting that awareness piece, because we can't go much further than that. It's just there's so much. So it's just giving them the kind of that ground level.
Okay, thank you.
Please.
I have a question about the Connect data that you take. So being younger learners, I think like a survey or something like that may not be as appropriate for them as it is for like a high schooler to take a survey. So how is that like data collected?
No, that's a terrific question. So obviously a lot of it is kind of adult facilitated. And then you can see the 5Kers took more of a percentage thing is, do you connect with somebody, yes or no? And that's kind of it. And a lot of the surveys are created with visuals and then adult scaffolded. But I think what we're learning, especially when it comes to tech stuff, that kids they're good with tech, and as long as they can read it and they know what they're doing, they're pretty self-sufficient with it. So yeah, it's our attempt at getting what we believe is pretty valid and pretty reliable data, and it's very quick, so it doesn't keep them in front of a computer doing a survey as long as probably you have to. Yeah, good question.
What kind of feedback are you getting from parents? Are they seeing results at home too?
Are they seeing what?
Results.
That's a good question. I mean, we're trying to put out, even in our newsletter, our monthly newsletter, trying to put out different, skills that parents can work on and things like that. Some of the thing, I mean, at least some of the feedback that I've received from parents is well received. They're really liking what we're doing. They're like, especially if I have a small group, trying to communicate with parents on like what it is that we're working on, so that whatever skills it is that they can also then be working on at home, as I kind of try and send, just have that communication going, and I think so far, so far so good. It seems like they've been really taking what we've said from the little bit that we hear. We don't hear all the time, but the little bit that we hear, it seems to be a positive.
I'll just ask a question about the referral growth. So are we getting better at identifying places that help is needed? Is it children coming in with more challenges? Is it a combination of those things? Give us a little more context about that if you could.
Yeah, I think you're kind of hitting some of the points there. Is how are we need to make sure that we're getting better at identifying what kids' needs are, And I think when it comes to teacher nominating students for groups or for, skill development or whatever, it used to be more, this kid's doing this behavior all the time, they need a group. But what we're also trying to build on is understanding, hey, if you see this kind of maybe withdrawal behavior, that might mean something. Or if you're seeing significant family dynamic changes, that might require something too. So I think part of it isn't totally, yep, there's more of it, but our better identification of it. Outside of the data, I got to tell you, it feels heavier. It feels heavier every year that there's more needs, and we're getting more, just dynamic stories of need from families in the district. And so I think that makes it harder, but it just tells us that how do we boost up our Tier 1 supports, but how do we also continue to work with individual families and get them the things that they need to help them be successful while teaching kids the skills that they need for both school and the community.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'd like to know, how do you tag off to Horizon then? Not go into their program or anything, but how do the kids flow from second to third grade then?
Yeah, in terms of some of the social emotional stuff, I think one of the challenges that we're going to have this year is it's a different team over there, a different student services team. But some of the work we've done over the last 5 to 8 years has sort of aligned. So they've used what's called a tribes system, which is similar to our responsive classroom system. So in terms of providing a Tier 1 level of support, I think we all share that vision. And then again, working with that team to say, how do you meet your Tier 2 and Tier 3 needs? I can tell, without speaking for them too much, I know that they run small groups too, and they get in the classroom and they do things like that. So definitely different, but probably some alignment over time.
Will you be getting data from them to base it like next year so that you can see what kind of progress you've made at PLE?
Yeah, I'd love that because I'm into that kind of stuff. So I can certainly come up with something to see what's that carryover look like,
right.
For sure. Something interesting too. One of the curriculum I use is called Superflex. It teaches flexible thinking and lots of different things. But my fourth grader comes home and he says, "Oh, we've got a teacher who teaches Superflex to us too," and that makes me feel pretty good because it's important stuff that it's not just a one and done type of thing. It's a overtime type of thing, and so it's kind of a deeper curriculum that takes more than just a me to do it. So it's really nice to hear that exposure is happening over time. Again, whether they want to use the same curriculum as I do or not, that would obviously take some more time and collaboration to develop.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned at one point that students graduate from the program. What does that exactly entail, or what standards do they have to kind of meet in order for you to feel as though they don't need that service anymore?
Yeah, so they have this point sheet that they use, and at the end of the day, when they check out with us, we keep track of their points, and then we kind of graph them and we score them ourselves. And when we're seeing like a high level of scores, some of these kids are 100% every day for 2 weeks in a row, 3 weeks in a row, and they're rocking it. Then we start to talk to the teacher, hey, what are you really noticing good stuff? We talk to the families to see if they feel the same way too. And so if we're all feeling pretty good about the progress, then we start a slow kind of removal of the sheet. So we might not use the sheet, but we'll still do the check-ins, and then after a while, maybe not the check-ins. Funny story though, I had a kid who was struggled at the beginning of the year, had him at 100% right before the break, and I said to his teacher, "Hey, we're going to try this. We're going to take the sheet away. I'll just come do the check-ins." He was not successful for a while there, and we couldn't, was it the sheet? Was it the holidays? I don't know. We went back on the sheet after the break. Took about a week and a half. We got back to those 100% scores, and he just kind of told me, he goes, "I like the sheet. I like the feedback," and he likes taking it home and showing his mom. So there's just pieces of that where the tools work for the kids, and we want to make sure that we're putting the tools in front of them to grab so they feel successful too. So
Thank you.
yeah.
Anything else good?
I would say our last plug is, we get this spotlight on us, and we kind of, to be honest, we love the spotlight. We'd love more of this. Laura likes the spotlight just in general, but I mean, in terms of the SEL stuff, it's important work, it's hard work, and just the social emotional learning of our kids is important, but also the social emotional health of our staff too, and taking care of them. So as much, like I said, spotlight we can keep on that work, we feel,
Thank you.
important.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is the student representative report. So I'll turn it over to our student reps. Oh, do I gotta stand again?
We
Wait,
can see it. I can see it. We're good.
I got it on the line here somewhere.
All right, so the first topic of discussion that we have is highlighting some of the community involvement Aces Park middle school students have had through the student council and through other means. So the first event that they had was